the liturgical year of Dom Prosper Guéranger. May 27th, St. John I, Pope and Martyr. The palm of martyrdom was won by this holy Pope, not in a victory over a pagan persecutor, but in battling for the Church's liberty against a Christian king. But this king was a heretic, and therefore an enemy of every pontiff that was zealous for the triumph of the true faith. The state of Christ's vicar here on earth is a state of combat, and it frequently happens that a pope is veritably a martyr without having shed his blood. St. John I, whom we honor today, was not slain by the sword. A loathsome dungeon was the instrument of his martyrdom. But there are many popes who are now in heaven with him, martyrs like himself, who never even passed a day in prison or in chains. The Vatican was their Calvary. They conquered, yet fell in the struggle with so little appearance of victory that heaven had to take up the defense of their reputation, as was the case with that angelic pontiff of the 18th century, Clement XIII. The saint of today teaches us by his conduct what should be the sentiment of every worthy member of the Church. He teaches us that we should never make a compromise with heresy, nor approve the measures taken by worldly policy for securing what it calls the rights of heresy. If in past ages, aided by the religious indifference of governments, have introduced the toleration of all religions, or even the principle that all religions are to be treated alike by the state, let us, if we will, put up with this latitudinarianism and be glad to see that the Church, in virtue of it, is guaranteed from legal persecution. But as Catholics, we can never look upon it as an absolute good. Whatever may be the circumstances in which Providence has placed us, we are bound to conform our views to the principles of our holy faith and to the infallible teaching and practice of the Church, out of which there is but contradiction, danger, and infidelity. The Holy Liturgy thus extols the virtues and courage of our saint. John, by birth a Tuscan, governed the Church during the reign of the Emperor Justin the Elder. He undertook a journey to Constantinople in order to solicit the emperor's protection against the heretical King Theodoric, who was persecuting the faithful of Italy. God honored the pontiff during this journey by several miracles. When about to visit Corinth, a certain nobleman lent him a horse, which he kept for his wife's use on account of its being so gentle. When the pontiff afterwards returned and gave the horse back to the nobleman, it was no longer a tame creature as before, but as often as its mistress attempted to ride it, would snort and prance and throw her from its back, as though it scorned to bear a woman's weight, after it had carried the vicar of Christ. They therefore gave the horse to the pontiff, but a greater miracle was that which happened in Constantinople, near to the Golden Gate, and in the presence of an immense concourse of people who had assembled there together with the emperor to show honor to the pontiff. He restored sight to a blind man. The emperor also prostrated before him, out of a sentiment of veneration. Having arranged matters with the emperor, he returned to Italy and immediately addressed a letter to all its bishops, commanding them to consecrate the churches of the Arians, that they might be used for Catholic services. He added these words, "For when at Constantinople, for the interests of the Catholic religion and on account of King Theodoric, we consecrated all the Arian churches we could find in that country and made them Catholic." Theodoric was exceedingly angry at this, and, having craftily induced the pontiff to come to Ravenna, put him in prison. There, from the filth of the place and from starvation, he died in a few days. He reigned 2 years, 9 months, and 14 days, during which time he ordained 15 bishops. Theodoric died soon after, and St. Gregory relates that a certain hermit saw him plunged into a pit of fire at Lipari, in the presence of John the Pontiff, and the patrician Symmachus, whom he had murdered. Thus they, whom he had put to death, stood as judges, condemning him to punishment. The body of St. John was taken from Ravenna to Rome and buried in the Basilica of St. Peter. Thy fair palm, O holy pontiff, was the reward of proclaiming the spotless holiness of the Church of Christ. She is the glorious church, as St. Paul calls her, having neither spot nor wrinkle. And for that very reason, she can never consent to yield to heresy any of the inheritance given her by her divine Lord. Nowadays, men, from their calculations on the interest of this passing world, and are resolved to regulate society independently of the rights of the Son of God, from whom proceeds all social order as well as all truth. They have deprived the Church of her external constitution and influence, and at the same time, they give encouragement to the sects they have rebelled against her. So has it been within the last few years with Catholic Mexico, and how severely has not the crime been punished? O Holy Pontiff, awaken in our hearts the sentiment of what divine truth is, and how error can never create prescription against her rights. Then shall we submit to the unhappy necessities handed down to us by the fatal triumph of heresy, without accepting as a progress the principle and law that all religions are on an equality. In thy prison, brave martyr, thou proclaimest the rights of the one only Church. Preserve us, who are living during that revolt which was foretold by the Apostle, from those cowardly compromises, dangerous prejudices, and culpable want of solid instruction, which are the ruin of so many souls, and may our last words on leaving this world be those that were taught us by our Jesus himself. Heavenly Father, hallowed be thy name. May thy kingdom come.